Alright, this is John Cole with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In this episode, we're going to share with you guys a rant with the science included at the same time. And so, the title of this video, as you guys read, is Why is Cooking Okay, but Juicing is Bad, right? This normally will come up when I'm actually on like a more vegan-centric YouTube channel. I was recently on Happy, Healthy, Vegan, and also Chef AJ, where there were some comments about, because I promote juicing, as a way to get nutrients. I do not promote, living on juices, long-term juice fasts, or anything like that. I do personally use juicing as a part of my healthy diet style and think it should be a part of everybody's healthy diet, right? And when I go on some of these more vegan, whole food, plant-based shows, I get really railed on from vegans that say, Whole Foods is better than juice, blending is better than juice, cooking is better than juice because you're removing the fiber, right? So, I get that. You're removing some of the fiber. I've had videos on this before. You can remove up to 90% of the fiber when juicing if you're juicing pineapples, but on the other hand, if you're juicing something like kohlrabi, you're still going to retain like 66% of the fiber. If you're juicing prickly pears, they contain 50 to 75% of the soluble fiber. That being said, you still are removing something. And so does that make juicing bad, right? And that's what I'm going to show you guys in this episode. So the first thing I will say is that I read, or actually I didn't really read it, I listened to the book Whole by Dr. T. Colin Campbell, and I definitely agree with Dr. Campbell on many points in his book, although I think that some plant-based doctors out there get a little bit dogmatic. And yeah, likewise, raw foodists can also get dogmatic. And here's the thing, people want a simplicity. People want a short 5-minute video telling them what to do. And they don't want to listen to a long thing, and they want to be able to think, what's the answer? And the whole thing is, if you look into science and read science and all this stuff, like I spent a lot of time doing, several hours this morning, there is no one right answer. The answers are always nuanced. What's the best way to eat carrots? It depends on what phytonutrient you're looking at, what mineral you're looking at, right? Of course, I always recommend for you guys to source and even grow your own food, like I teach on growing your greens. That way you could grow the highest quality food that industry is not doing for you. You can add the fertilizers and trace minerals and soil probiotics and compost teas, so you could have a superior quality food. Then you want to pick that and eat it as soon as you're able and chew it up. And let me tell you guys, you could save your money from buying any of these appliances. Our teeth are the best digesters or best machinery to process plant foods in most instances. I won't say all instances, in most instances, although there are some times when some equipment can be helpful. So I'm going to give you guys a summary of the video now, so if you guys complain about my long videos, listen to the summary and then shut this video off. The summary of the video that I'm going to go over and show through science is simply this, is that there is a benefit of juicing. There's a bigger benefit actually to vacuum blending and juicing in a vacuum blender, in my opinion, and based on some of the science. But there's also a benefit to cooking and heat processing your food. So it depends on what specific nutrients you're looking at. And that's why I recommend, and what I do personally is I primarily would rather juice secondarily, whether that's in a slow juicer or even better yet in a vacuum blender. Second, I would rather vacuum blend. And then third, I would actually cook something to eat it if it allows me to get nutrients that I couldn't get from juicing or blending. And I think this is a more, mainstream approach that people should take up instead of just automatically cooking everything or blending everything, especially if you don't have a vacuum blender, because it's whole. You're going to learn in the science in this episode why that may not always be true. So the first thing I'm going to tell you guys is that I'm not a nutritionalist. I didn't go to school for this. My degree's in business, and some people say I'm full of shit, and I would actually agree with them. I'm full of shit. I go to the bathroom about 6 times a day. I have a lot of shit inside me. That being said, the reason why I study nutrition and study and read science, which many people in a raw foods or vegan diet actually don't do, is because my health is the most important thing to me, and I want to make sure I have the best information for me that I'm reading, that then I will decipher through my brain and then put into action in my life. It's great if you want to watch a YouTube video and follow what I'm doing. You know, that's up to you. I'm sharing what I'm doing. Hopefully one day my children, when I have children one day, will watch it, because this video is really for them. And so if you're my kids, I love you guys that I haven't had yet. And, you know, and also, but more importantly for me, because I have learned at a young age that the one thing that is most important or should be most valuable to you is your health. I take my health seriously. I look into the science. I have different, you know, I read different books and audiobooks and look into different things and kind of take everything, all the different pieces from everywhere, and then it goes through my supercomputer brain, and then I spit out my own answer, which I feel is most competent based on my knowledge base. That being said, I don't know everything. So, you know, that's what it is. I don't think anybody knows everything, and the more I learn, I didn't know. All right? So let's just put that in perspective. Anyways, on with this video. Now, the first most important point of this episode is simply this. While juicing can remove some of the fiber, you know, there's two main classifications of fiber, soluble and insoluble fiber. The juicing will remove mostly the insoluble fiber. It keeps the soluble fiber because it dissolves in the liquids, and even some juicers will put some pulp in the juice. Unless it's ultra strained, you're going to have some small percentage of insoluble fiber in the juice as well. So then automatically people think, juicing's bad because you're removing something that I could see physically. You're removing some of the fiber. I mean, most people think it removes all the fiber. But here's the thing. If you cook, and this is the best way to heat process food, I like to call it heat processed, right? Cooking also removes some of the nutrients in the food. You're like, no, John, I put in broccoli and I get out broccoli whole when I boil it. Right, well, it is whole. In that sense, you're keeping, well, actually, if you're boiling broccoli, that's a whole different discussion, because you are losing some of the soluble fiber that actually you keep when you're juicing, because the fiber will come out into the water. In addition, minerals will leach out into the water. In addition, you are losing things even more important than what you're gaining with juicing, in my personal opinion, is you are lowering antioxidants and certain vitamins, right? When you're heat processing or cooking things. I'll be showing you guys this in the studies. So be aware that no matter how you process your food, you know, you will always lose something. And let's remind you guys that if you're not growing your own food like I am growing some of my own food in my backyard, right? That food, I know how it was raised. I added trace minerals and microbes to the soil and fungi and bacteria to have higher quality food. I pick the food and then I eat it. I don't generally store the food. You know, when they grow food, they pick it and then they put it on a refrigerated truck and then it goes to Whole Foods or wherever near you. That to me is a process. That's a storage process, and in storage process you also lower nutrients. My goal, since I've been into raw foods now for the last 26 years, is to maximize my nutrients. That's one of the main reasons why I got into raw foods in the first place. In addition, freezing also is a storage mechanism or way, and that also can lock in some nutrients, but the minute you start defrosting the food, you know, the cell walls are broken open, and then now the food could degrade more. So I always want you guys to do the minimal processing. The minimal processing for me is I go out into my garden, I pick something and instantly put it in my mouth, or even better yet, the leaf is still attached to the plant, and I chomp on the leaf as it's still attached to the plant, right? That's the best way. In most cases, you could get some nutrients in you, but even our digestive system has some challenges with processing food, especially foods that contain high levels of fiber. We may not absorb all the nutrients in that, and that's why juicing can be so beneficial. You know, the video I was supposed to make today was going to be this video, and this is going to be another day. This is my rough draft. I don't know if you guys can see that. But I have two axes, the X and the Y, whatever way they go, I don't know. But anyways, I listed nutrients. So there's nutrients in food, or properties in food, such as water, soluble fiber, insoluble fiber, vitamins, enzymes, polyphenols, beneficial probiotics, or, you know, good bacteria, bad bacteria, anti-cancer anthocyanins, prebiotics, or basically prebiotic fibers, biophotons and proteins, and there could be toxins in your food like AGEs and HCAs, right? Which could age you prematurely. That's on one axis, right? So I'm going to go over all the different nutrients. And then the other axis, I have the food processing technique. You know, it could be just eating it raw by chewing it. It could be baking. It could be griddling. It could be boiling. It could be frying. It could be steaming. It could be pressure cooking. It could be microwaving. Could be dehydrating. Could be blending. Could be vacuum blending. Could be slow juicing. Could be fast juicing. Could be your fridge or even your freezer, right? And then I'm going to go over and make like a column of which items, you know, degrade more nutrients than others. And you'll see clearly on this list that, you know, juicing will actually keep a lot of the nutrients. Maybe you'll lose a few, but other processing techniques like baking or frying will destroy more nutrients and even remove the water content. We are 70% water. That's one of the most important nutrients. In addition, any cooking process, especially at high temperatures, could cause toxins to be created that were not there in the food in the first place. But on the flip side, you know, cooking and heat processing some food can denature some plant toxins so that now we have availability and are able to eat that food, right? So it depends on how you look at it. And a lot of raw food, let's get into the dogma, raw is always best. And I definitely overall agree with that in most cases, but please understand there are exceptions to that rule. In addition, people that think whole foods is always best, once again, there are exceptions to that rule as well. Life is full of exceptions. Luckily, I'm an exception person. And I've been able to spot these fairly well in my life. So I want you guys to be perceptive about these things and understand that there are always pros and cons to everything. And probably the best thing to do, honestly, is to do a mixture of juicing, vacuum blending, and cooking in the best way possible, which, you know, I'll give you guys my summary. In my opinion, the Instant Pot, or the pressure cooking for the shortest amount of time is probably one of the best ways to heat process your food so you lose the least amount of nutrients overall. Anyways, let's get into some of these studies today. First study is actually entitled Effects of Different Cooking Methods on Health Promoting Compounds of Broccoli. Right? This is where I'm coming from. I'm coming from how can I get the most health promoting compounds into me, into my life, so that I could be as healthy as possible, right? And so this study studied different ways of heat processing food, and they came up with these cool charts and graphs. And I like that this study, unlike some other studies that I've reviewed, also shows as the baseline the raw version and how much nutrients are in the raw version. So you guys can see this longest bar in this chart is the raw version, and then depending on the cooking process, the bar goes down. Once again, link is down below to this study. Anyways, on this one, actually it looks like the chlorophyll content was the most in the raw and actually the steamed, but it was the lowest in the boiled, right? And so chlorophyll, that's a very important nutrient in my opinion. I think it helps with detoxification. They have all these other cool charts that I'll sum up really fast. This one is total soluble protein. Protein in the raw was actually about twice as much as any of the other cooked items. Cooking denatures proteins, right? But cooking also can allow you to eat more of the food so you get twice as much food. But at the same time, guess what? Juicing does not denature proteins and also allows you to get more of that food in you. Like greens, people would rather cook their greens to get them into them, but I would rather juice my greens to get them into me because I know it does less damage to the food, as by studies like this. So yeah, I'm keeping more of the proteins in there, and once again, boiling was the worst way. And then there's anyways, next was the vitamin C content, and vitamin C content, the best way was, of course, raw. Second best was steaming. And when I do the pressure cooker, basically what happens is I have a little bit of water on the bottom. I have a tray, little legs, and then I have like a steaming pot. So literally I'm using the pressure cooker as a steamer. That's done under higher pressure so that I could reduce the amount of steam time. Next on here is the total carotenoid content. And in that one, actually, some of these methods were actually all fairly similar. The raw and the steam were really close, and then followed by some of the other two the microwaved and stir-fried were pretty high as well. But, you know, here's the thing. You know, in my opinion, microwaving is not healthy. You might have different opinions, although it will keep more of the vitamin C. And then definitely stir-fried at hot temperatures with oil. You know, I would not recommend anybody cooks with oil, despite olive oil being healthy by many people. I do not believe olive oil to be a health food personally. I personally prefer to eat whole olives, especially the purple ones, for their anthocyanin content. Anyways, moving on. Probably the most important part of this study for me anyways was this table right here that's not in a bar graph, so you guys can't see it easily. But basically it's table 2, individual glucosinolate content in broccoli cooked by different methods. Glucosinolates, you know, can basically be helpful for anti-cancer, and so that's what I'm really looking at. And they have different kinds of indoles and alpha ferric glucosinolates. And basically we'll just go ahead and go down the indole glucosinolates, right? So the raw GB was 4.10, and when you boil it, it's 1.52. When you steam it, it's 2.40. When you microwave it, it's 1.8. When you stir-fried it, it's 1.18. And when you stir-fried and boiled, it's 1.40. So you guys can see the raw has almost twice as much glucosinolates as the next best, which was steaming, you know, and so like that's why I like to juice my kale, you know, more glucosinolates because it's raw. I'm not heat processing the food. Okay, let's move it on. All right, so I want to go ahead and go down to the conclusion of that study there, and it says, in conclusion, the current study clearly shows that nutrient and health-promoting compounds in broccoli are significantly affected by domestic cooking. A good reason to eat your broccoli raw and other cruciferous vegetables raw, you know, so that you don't denature and lose some of these beneficial compounds. That's why I like to juice them. Keeps it raw. You could vacuum blending, which is probably even better than juicing because you're doing it in an oxygen-deprived environment and not going to as negatively affect the antioxidant compounds that can be oxidized. All right. Next study, this was a very interesting one. I like this actually because it says effective boiling and juicing on the content of polyphenols, in vitro bioaccessibility and antioxidant activity of common consumed vegetables and fruits. So there's a little chart here. Once again, links down below to these studies if you guys want to review them and not just trust what I'm saying. Anyways, it tested carrots. So carrots' total polyphenols were 15.30 in the raw form. In pure juice, it goes down to 10.46, so you're losing like 5 whatever milligrams. But then in the boiled, it goes down to 5.59, so that's half as much as the juice. Now, while you do have less total polyphenols, they may be getting better absorbed in the juice form than the raw form. I don't exactly know, but we'll look at a study in a little bit that discusses this. You know, tomatoes, raw, 26.35 total polyphenols, boiled 3.66. This totally demolishes those guys. The pure juice had 11.373. Pomegranates, this is very interesting. 55.90 raw, 47.76 pure juice. Oh, and then they don't even have the boiled version. Beets, this is very eye-opening here. Raw beets, 19.53. Boiled beets, 2.83. And pure juice was 3.34. So I don't exactly know what kind of juice they're using. Mint leaves. When's the last time you had mint leaves? I ate mint leaves just yesterday, actually, from my garden. Mint leaves raw, 39.54. Boiled, 3.16. And juiced, 11.42. So you guys can clearly see more polyphenols in the juice form, you know, than the cooked form. And then the other thing is it also depends on the produce item you are processing, and then also the specific extraction method you're using. So I'd really love to know. I didn't read the study that showed what kind of juicer they're using or how they got the juice. because, you know, it's been my specialty to find the appliances that allow you to maximize your nutrients, you know, in your life. And that's why I sell appliances. And I also use them every day, and I believe in these things. Alright, anyways, we're going to jump down to the conclusion of this study. They have all these different cool little bar graphs and all these different things and line graphs. Anyways, conclusion. These findings showed that among the selected foods, juice of mint leaves, pomegranate, apple, and beetroot showed higher total and individual polyphenol bioaccessibility and antioxidant capacities. Moderate total and individual polyphenol bioaccessibility and antioxidant capacity were observed in raw foods, and lesser content were observed in boiled foods. If you process your food by juicing, you're basically blowing open cell walls, so you may have a greater bioaccessibility of some of the nutrients in there. Actually, and that's what we're going to talk about next in this study right here. This study is called Associations of Soluble Fiber, Whole Fruits, Vegetables, and Juice with Plasma Beta-Carotene Concentration in a Free-Living Population of Breast Cancer Survivors. I know some of my studies that I reference, they do these, you know, in vitro testing and, you know, test tubes and all these things, and also they just kind of like juice the item, then they look at what's actually in there, but they don't actually look at what is actually, although it's in there, is it absorbed properly, taken up by bodies, and that's what this study shows. And so we're just going to go ahead and read part of the, or we're just going to show you guys, number one, I want to show you guys this table right here, and in this table, it's table 3, and it basically says beta-carotene from whole fruits and vegetables in milligrams, it's 0.09, and then it's beta-carotene from juice in milligrams is 0.23, so there's about twice as much beta-carotene that people are getting in their blood plasma from a juice form than the whole form. I want to sum it up here at the end. Fiber is positively associated with plasma beta-carotene concentrations, thus may inhibit beta-carotene absorption. Therefore, consumption of juiced fruits, vegetables may increase plasma beta-carotene concentrations more than whole fruits and vegetables. In conclusion, incorporating fruit and vegetable juice into one's diet may increase beta-carotene concentrations, which in turn may provide health benefits. Similar associations may be seen in non-breast cancer free living populations, because beta-carotene probably a very important nutrient for breast cancer survivors, and they just looked at beta-carotene, but there are so many other different phytonutrients in fruits and vegetables, and they haven't run the study on each and every one of these phytonutrients. For example, a tomato could produce up to 300 different plant metabolites or phytonutrients that it will contain within it, right? And so we only know really a fraction of what is going on. That's why you should, you know, vary the ways you eat your foods. You know, some foods I eat whole, a lot of foods I juice, some foods I vacuum blend and vacuum juice even, and sometimes I'll even use my pressure cooker to expand my diet and eat things that I would not necessarily eat raw, couldn't eat raw, or don't want to eat raw. Alright? So as you guys are learning, you know, things are nuanced. It's not always that cooked foods are better, right? Juice foods have a place, and juicing, I believe, should be part of a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet. You're removing some of the fiber. And if here's the thing, if you want to juice and remove some of the fiber and then eat the fiber separately, I encourage you guys to do that. Why? Because a juicer, in my personal opinion, is a much better digester and breaking oper of the nutrients than most people's digestive systems when we got to deal with the fiber as according to this study. But if you still want the fiber, you could sit and dehydrate the fiber, then eat it as a pulp later, add it to, you know, soup stocks, mix it into different cookies or whatever. That being said, I've also seen other studies that compare the value, quote-unquote value that they put on it, of the vegetable-based fiber to things like grain fiber or even things like flax fiber. And from the study and from what I remember is that, you know, there are fibers that are more important than vegetable fiber, especially when you're eating vegetable fiber at other meals in your day. So for example, I might juice carrots and drink carrot juice in the morning, but for my salad at dinner, I'm going to be actually shredding carrots and having carrot shreds with the carrot fiber in my dinner meal. So I'm getting carrots that way as well. And even furthermore, there are studies that show that, you know, say you're going to like sweet potato fiber is better if it's been heat processed, like in an Instant Pot, right? And then cooled, and then reheated, and then you eat it. It'll cause a greater benefit to your microbiome than just probably a raw sweet potato, or differently than a raw sweet potato would. So I would encourage you guys, and yes, sweet potatoes can be eaten raw, and when I do eat sweet potatoes, my goal is to eat the purple sweet potatoes because they are also come with an added benefit. They're high in anthocyanins and tend to be a lot less sweet than the standard sweet potatoes that most people eat. Alright? Now the question arises, John, what's better? Because I've made videos lately on the all-new Dynapro Vacuum Blender 2250, brand new for 2021. Post a link down below to the video I made unboxing this unit, which was like last week. And then this week's video was showing you guys how you can juice in an oxygen deprived environment and make the highest quality juice, you know, with a high yield percentage. Actually, that's better than all the juicers I've tested, and I could definitely tell you guys that. I sell juicers too, and I've been selling juicers, but I also sell vacuum blenders, and juicing the vacuum blender is superior, although it may be a bit more work, and you can't necessarily easily juice everything in a vacuum blender under vacuum without a tamper. So yeah, watch the video I made making my very own turmeric, ginger, ginseng, lemon, rosemary, and apple juice with added pepper and some actually oil in there for increased uptake of some of the nutrients. Anyways, as much as some people think, you know, juicing is bad and blending is good, you know, I would caution you guys, because once again, if you don't have a vacuum pump or you aren't sucking out the excess oxygen when blending, there are reliable destruction of antioxidant compounds and antioxidant vitamins, as shown by this study here. This study is entitled Effects of Extraction Methods on Antioxidative Properties of Carrot, Apple, and Blueberry Juices. And they basically compare a slow juicer, such as this one, a vacuum blender, you know, that sucks out the oxygen before blending, and then a standard blender. And basically going from a non-vacuum blender to a vacuum blender, there's like a 63% increase in free radical scavenging ability. I'll read off some of the numbers here for you. On polyphenols, they compare carrot, apple, and blueberry on a slow juicer, a non-vacuum blender, and a vacuum blender, okay? And depending on the produce item, the results will be different. So for example, on the slow juicer, the polyphenol content was 210. On a non-vacuum juicer, it was 314. And once again, these are only polyphenol content that they're measuring. And there's many other nutrients that they're not measuring. And then in a vacuum blender, it was 344. So that's, you know, the highest was the vacuum blender. On apples, the juicer was able to extract 273 milligrams of polyphenols. The non-vacuum blender was 272. So the juicer actually beat the standard traditional blender, which would include the Vitamix that many of you guys own. But the vacuum blender had 549. So that was twice as many, almost twice as much as either the two other ways. On blueberries, the juicer had 835. The non-vacuum blender had 1,182, but the vacuum blended had 1,740. Now here's the thing, right? When you are juicing, you're removing some of the fiber. Some of that fiber will contain some of the polyphenols, so that's why in some cases the juice, polyphenol content was lower. You know, I like to repress my pulp and get more extraction out of it. You know, in some cases, if I'm juicing purple carrots, I'll even dry the purple carrot powder because I know there's still polyphenols in there even if I run it through the juicer a couple times. That being said, you know, in the blender, I will also use it to juice under vacuum. So I'll blend up the mixture, and when I don't want to get a lot of fiber in me because that might inhibit the digestion and absorption of some of the nutrients as shown by as talked about by the previous study. So then I run it through a nut milk bag, basically, and then I extract the liquid and remove just the fiber out of there that I will then reprocess like 2 or 3 more times using the same exact method. Once again, link down below to the video where I show how to do this. and that will make the highest quality juice with the most polyphenols, in my personal opinion, compared to any other method. Probably even more compared to chewing it up yourself, because you're liberating it within an oxygen deprived environment. So I really want you guys, you know, to kind of have an open mind about these things. And while raw food diet is definitely great, and it could keep more nutrients depending on how you're processing them, you know, there are definitely benefits to juicing. There are definitely benefits to vacuum blending. I don't see a whole lot of benefits to traditional blending with the oxygen these days, personally, from some of the science. And there is even a benefit of cooking. As a 26-year person who's been eating 99% raw, I have started including more heat processed foods into my diet. Post a link down below that I made years ago where I discussed this, and I've inched up the kind of foods that I'll be heat processing. I hope to soon make a video about that with you as well. And I generally will heat process foods that I would not eat raw, and or that will include higher levels of antioxidants and polyphenols in my diet, because I believe, you know, it is so critical to maximize some of these nutrients in the food. Yeah, having a living water is great. Not removing the water from the food is great, but I want to really focus on having these antioxidant, you know, vitamins and different kind of polyphenols and phytonutrients, and get those into me, because, you know, the classic standard American diet destroys most of these things by eating fried foods and eating animal foods that are traditionally very low in these plant phytochemicals. And, you know, according to science, I've seen that the phytochemicals not only can help our bodies heal, but more importantly also will feed our microbiome, in addition to the soluble fiber, you know, that is in all the plant foods that I'm eating. And yes, it is still in my juice. The other thing that's very important to me, and I want to share with you guys, is I want you guys to expand the kinds of food you eat, right? If you're a raw foodist, you know, being on a raw foods diet is great because you're maximizing some nutrients, but you also may be limiting your microbiome because you're not eating as wide a variety of food as if you heat process some foods that will make some foods more available. I will soon have a video on, you know, how to enhance your microbiome as somebody who eats a raw foods diet. These are clearly topics that I don't know anybody else on a raw foods diet discussing, because I try to integrate, you know, my background and history of eating raw and why I do it for my health with, you know, more other, you know, different methods from plant-based doctors and science that I trust, so I could improve my raw food diet and make it even better in my personal opinion. And hopefully you guys appreciate and enjoy this video. I do want to declare that I do sell juicers for a living. And I'm not just saying all this stuff because I sell juicers. I actually have been living the juicing lifestyle now for the last 26 years. I got started from Jay Kordich because I saw his infomercial on TV, and I've seen the benefits that juicing has given me, and also more importantly seen the benefits that juicing has given many of the, you know, my customers that I've sold them to over the many years I'm doing it. I mean, here's the thing. Juicing simply allows you to concentrate the amount of especially leafy green vegetables and vegetables you guys are getting into you. I'm not a big fan of fruit juices, you know, but I do encourage you guys to juice your vegetables. But if you want to juice some fruit here and there, you know, once again, good, better, best is what I teach. And if, hey, drinking a fruit juice is going to get your kid to stop drink soda, that's a good thing, but everybody's at their own different place, and I want you guys to make small and gradual improvements to increase your fruit and vegetable consumption, especially your leafy green vegetables. And that's where juicing, I think, could help out so many people. And if you are going to blend them because you don't want to juice, clean up the juicer. Minimally, please, guys, vacuum blend them if you want to take your diet to the next level, have better flavors, not get the gas and bloating from traditional blending that adds lots of air in and also oxidizing nutrients and also lowers the taste and also makes your blends not look as you know, appetizing because it turns them more brown and oxidizes them more. But at the same time, you might be creating more enzymes. And that's a whole nother discussion topic that I'm not going to discuss today. But that's pretty much today's video. If you guys appreciated this video, hey, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also, please be sure to share this video with somebody else that you guys could think it could help, so that they could learn that, you know, it's not all, juicing is not all that bad. Once again, I want you to include juices, whole foods, raw foods, fresh foods, you know, homegrown foods, vacuum blended juices, and even some heat processed foods. If you cannot get them into you in any other fashion, I think that would only be a good thing. And so that you don't miss out on my new upcoming episodes that come out every 5 to 7 days. Make sure you click that subscribe button right down below, and make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. Also, make sure you check my past episodes. I have over 600 episodes at this time on this YouTube channel dedicated to teach you guys how to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables so that you guys can get healthier. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.